My Brother Charlie is the story we're going to read today. In this story, you will learn about a brother and a sister who are twins. And they have a special connection because the brother in the story has autism. And as I'm reading, I want you to pay attention to who's telling the story. Pay attention to the pronouns that you hear. Do you hear he and she, or do you hear pronouns like I and me? I also want you to pay attention to how Charlie's family accepts him for who he is and what he can do, and how they show him unconditional love. All right, My Brother Charlie. We've always been together, even in Mommy's tummy. My twin brother, Charlie, and me. We still share lots of things. Curly hair and brown eyes, how much we love chocolate with marshmallows, our dog Harriet, rolling in the grass, music, football, and names that start with the letter C. Callie and Charlie. But being twins doesn't make us exactly the same. I am 2 minutes younger than Charlie. I can stare for hours at the Big Dipper and the moon, and I love to talk. Charlie is skinnier and goofier than me. He hates math. When he looks at the sky, he finds jets and helicopters. And sometimes my brother gets very quiet. When we were babies, I pointed out flowers and cats and fireflies. I snuggled and giggled with Mommy on dark nights and told Mommy again and again how much I love her. But Charlie was different. He wouldn't play with me or kiss Mommy's cheek when she hugged him, and he didn't say, I love you. Seems those words were locked deep inside my brother. Everyone told Mommy not to worry. He's just being a boy, they said. But Mommy knew there was something different about Charlie. I knew it too. As we grew older, Mommy watched Charlie very carefully. She and I could see he was struggling. Then Mommy discovered that Charlie's brain works in a special way because Charlie has autism. It's harder for Charlie to make friends or show his feelings or stay safe. One doctor even told Mommy that Charlie would never say, I love you. That made Mommy and me saddest of all. I have learned from Charlie that love doesn't always come from what you say. It can also come from what you do. And so we do right by Charlie. We love Charlie strong. We watch over him with the might of angels. We have to. Okay, let's stop and let's do a little think aloud. Good readers always stop and think about what's happened in the story so far. Well, we know that they are twins, and we know that Charlie is different than Callie because he has autism. And we can tell by looking at the pictures that some of the ways that Charlie acts and some of the things that Charlie do make his family sad. But do they get mad at him? Do they get upset with him because he is a little different? No, they love him strong the way he is what the narrator telling the story tells us. Now let's stop and also think. I asked you a question. Who's telling the story? Well, I have paid attention to the pronouns. On this page, I see the pronouns like I see pronouns like we, and that tells me from my list, my anchor chart, that there's a character telling the story. Someone that is in the story is telling the story because they're using pronouns like I and we. So let's keep reading. Hopefully by the time we're done, we'll know who's telling the story. When Charlie wants something, nothing stops him, even when it's dangerous. And there are days when it's hard to be Charlie's sister. Sometimes he can ruin the best play dates. Other times he seems so far away, like when he won't look at me, or speak, or play. Take a moment and look at the picture. Look at Callie. Her brother is ruining her play date. But is she getting mad at him? No. She may be frustrated with him, but she's accepting him the way he is. I wish I could crawl inside Charlie's world to move things around for him and for me. I know Charlie wants to be in my world, fitting in, making friends, having fun, and laughing. How do you think Callie feels about her brother? She says she wishes that she knew him better or could understand him better, but she also knows that he probably wishes that he was a little more like her also. Is that acceptance? Is that love? Understanding people who are different? There are good times with Charlie too. When Charlie looks right at me and welcomes me with his smile, he lets me touch his face. He laughs when we lock fingers in a holding hands game. That's Charlie's I love you, said in the silly ways we play together. Charlie is good at so much. He knows the names of all the American presidents. He's a fish in the water. What does that mean? Fish in the water. He's not really a fish in the water. I think it means he's a good swimmer. He has a special way with animals, especially Harriet. When Harriet and Charlie are together, there's even more I love you, said in the way only Charlie can, when he gets Harriet to sit, run, or listen. Charlie's got a mind that tests things. Shoelaces, paper clips, apples, pine cones, and he enjoys sharing. He likes to show off his shell collection, his new sneakers, and how well he plays Itsy Bitsy Spider on the piano. Charlie likes to share how sweet he is and how much he cares about other people. When I fall off my bike or bump my head, Charlie comes running. He also makes my hurts feel better with the caring that comes from his eyes. Sometimes when Charlie can find the words, when they unlock themselves from inside him, he does say, I love you. Think about that. How does Charlie help his sister feel better? How does Charlie show love to his sister? He makes her hurts feel better. And he does say, I love you, with his eyes, with his touch. I will always remember the first time I heard him say it. So clear and kind, so Charlie. I banged my toe hard and cried. There was my brother patting my back, saying over and over again, don't cry, Callie, I love you. It was just the words that were so strong. Sorry, I read that wrong. I'm going to go back and reread. It wasn't just the words that were so strong. It was the love that Charlie showed me, just by being there. I love you too, Charlie, came from me fast. Charlie has autism, but autism doesn't have Charlie. If you ever get to meet my brother, you'll feel lucky to be his friend. He won't care if you have the coolest sneakers or if you are the best at sports. He'll just like you for who you really are. That's Charlie. I'm blessed to be Charlie's sister and to share so much. I count my Charlie blessings every day. At the very top of my Charlie blessings list is the love Charlie and I have for each other. Said in so many ways. All right, that was My Brother Charlie. Now, let's think about that question I asked you. I asked you to figure out who's telling the story. Well, we stopped and talked and thought about our story halfway through, and we came to the conclusion that we think it's a character from the book because they used pronouns like we and me. We've always been together, even in Mommy's tummy, my twin brother Charlie and me. So as we reread, go back and double check, we can look for these pronouns. We still share lots of things. I can stare for hours at the Big Dipper and the moon, and I love to talk. So we know the pronouns are I, me, he, my. So who's telling the story? It's Callie, Charlie's sister. That's right. She's telling this story from her point of view, what it's like to be Charlie's sister. Now, I want you to think for a minute. What do you think Charlie would say if he was telling this story? How do you think that this would be different? What do you think would change if this story was told from Charlie's point of view? Callie told us all about Charlie and things that he likes. So maybe if Charlie was telling this point of view, he might tell us things about his sister and what she likes. Callie also talked about how her family accepts Charlie the way he is and shows him love. What do you think Charlie would say about things like that? I want you to think about the story that we just read. I want you to think about what happened and all the things that Callie talked about. And then I want you to think about, what if Charlie was telling the story instead? What would he say?